I would be curious. This is, I guess, a question back to the audience. And I imagine since you're here, and I think the majority of y'all actually saw our production, whether it be it digitally or in person, much appreciated. Thank you very much. But did the show have like an effect on you kind of within the confines of this conversation that we're having, but as an audience member, I'd be curious just if anybody has just an opinion on that, in terms of how the gravity maybe of the show, or like thematically what it did for you.
Leora runs a radio talk show here in, that's simplifying what you do, sorry. But in Cruces, she offered us the space to talk about the production. And I requested to be able to bring both Julian and Josh in so that they could interact and to be more vocal and even do like a little excerpt from the show. And then Leora even went on, largely because of her like brilliance, but to win like a national award for that interview that she did with those two gentlemen. It's still available online. I would encourage people to check it out. But Leora, can you speak to Julian's question?
Thank you. First, I just have to thank everybody for, this was an amazing conversation, and for people just opening their hearts and stories for all of us. So I had seen Vomiting of Errors like before that, but I hadn't seen Othello the remix, and I hadn't read Othello in years or seen any productions of it. But I just was completely blown away when Josh and Julian just, like I said, could you do some words from this for us on the air? And you just like both took a second, like a nanosecond, and got totally into character and just performed. And it was so powerful. I just was transfixed and wrapped. And this was radio, but I was in the room with you, so I could see you. And then I went and saw the show, and the show was just amazing. I really loved it. And I just am thrilled to be hearing this conversation getting more and more expanded. I continue to be moved by my memory of it. I'm gonna watch it again later today before the streaming service ends, but I kind of decided to watch it after this conversation, which I'm really looking forward to. So thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to just say something. I just have incredible admiration for all that you're doing. And I just also want to say on a personal level, I've been very committed for a number of years to my own personal life, my work on the radio and everywhere, to really being engaged in anti-racism, and which is really different. I mean, to be anti-racist, which I guess it bears, I mean, everybody here I think understands this, but I think a lot of people don't understand yet out in the world that it's different to just learn about racism than to commit to anti-racism. And so this was part of my journey. Thank you.
I just want to tell people, we know each other from our work at KRWG previously, and it's really good to see you here, Leora. I haven't seen you in a while. But before this moment, she really demonstrated basically the quality of person that she was. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into the details, but I was there with her, and I was caught in a moment of a pretty hostile moment of you know, anti-blackness and racism, and it was very insidious. It was very you know, and Leora, I've never seen her so just on fire, like to right that wrong, and she didn't have to do that, and I think she took a risk doing that, and I couldn't be more appreciative of it, and I've remembered it. It's been about a little over a year since that happened, I think, and so I just want to thank you, and I just want to let everybody know, like, this is the kind of thing, the small actions that seem trivial, or the actions that happen, you know, when, you know, maybe there's something you have to lose, but it happens at work, or it happens in a social circle, it happens every day. It's not just words, it's something that you put on the line, and I know that she's done that for me, and these are the kind of things that will move us forward, you know.
I think there is an interest in our community 4 more of these stories. I just think something that just needed to be 1 or 2 shows that could show that that could convince people that it might work. I mean, I was doing a show last year, and someone who was working on that show approached me about maybe wanting to do top dog underdog in the near future in Las Cruces, which totally blew my mind, because the person that asked me, I was like, wow, I had no idea you were even interested in a show like that. But the fact that she seemed at the time pretty gung-ho about wanting to make it happen, and maybe looking for to do some casting or something like that. But this was, this was post Othello, and I don't know if she saw Othello, but it was just something really encouraging to me. I hadn't heard anybody in the community express interest about doing a show like that before. And so maybe having Othello be somewhat successful, or in terms of people wanting to see it, and things like this talk back and the video that we put out. I mean, maybe this will spur more people to want to try to do something, if not necessarily African American theater, at least something that is more indicative of the area that we're in terms of Hispanic themed shows.
Well, another challenge of local theater is getting people interested, getting young people to the theater. And that was one of the things I thought was really exciting about this as well, is that we did that performance. I think you guys suggested to do the performance for people under 30 to go free, which is something that they sometimes do like in New York environments, but we don't do in communities like ours. And I was like, screw it, I don't care if this means we lose money. Like, I want new people to see the show. And the most exciting thing was the bartenders loving the show, who were like, dude, I love this part, like would come out running to see that and would like yell stuff. I was like, this is awesome. These guys don't go to plays. Like, I don't even remember all of their ethnic backgrounds, but the point being, like, these people are not theater attendees. Like, and
right.
To remind people that theater has this magical ability to really help us empathize with each other.
And even last year, right? Because we actually did this show last year in Albuquerque, a one-time show. And before we did that show, it had been like a year since we'd done it. So we did a couple of tune-up shows. One was at, they were both at high schools. One was at, which
yeah, we did Alma de Arte.
One was at Alma, right. And the other one was at
Mayfield,
yeah. And so we had a bunch of kids from Alma, like they filled up the whole gymnasium with chairs, and they had a bunch of kids in there that watched us. And after the show was over with, we were done, and then these kids like rushed us on stage. Like, they wanted us, like, our autographs, they wanted pictures with us, they wanted us to, we were signing the back of their phones with like Sharpies.
Yeah, like,
it was wild, man. And they're like, oh wow, they wanted to be our friends on Instagram and whatnot. And then we did that same show at Mayfield, and we had a good crowd. It was most of the theater students there, but just to expose those kids to a show like this is indescribable. It's a good feeling, and it's really necessary, I think, for these kids.
Definitely. And we got a really nice response in Albuquerque as well, with that. And I think that's kind of what made me want to continue to do. And I'm going to keep calling you out, Megan, Michelle. I'm going to keep telling you, third time's the charm. All good things happen in threes, which means, we got to come back a third time. Don't worry. I'm obsessed with that. It's going to happen anyways. But it's also due to the fact that, the conversations that we're having is like, every time when we did the show in Albuquerque, for instance, the talk back, doing stuff like this, having this conversation, even though the themes might be a little bit uncomfortable, with it. And maybe we're doing, it's just, it forces you to ask questions. And then, doing the show, forcing us to ask questions, saying, hey, maybe that wasn't that cool. And then getting a chance to have a conversation back and forth is almost like, to me, what makes this show so dope. Like, that, just the fact that there's this back and forth, that's able, and also the fact that I'm willing to have a talk back after everyone, because I think it's necessary as well with a piece like this, to not only defend the show, but just say, hey, this is what we did, and this is why it's important. This is why what you saw is important to us, for instance.
Right, and it's great that we actually have people that participate in that talkback, like various audience members from different ages, from different experiences, and they spoke to us one-on-one. But it's also really valuable to even have those people who aren't in the conversation, right? They're just witnessing it and they're absorbing it and they're hearing things, whether it's questions or answers that they wouldn't have asked or they wouldn't have known about, and they're getting their own education from it. And that is even in some ways even more powerful, I think.
Matt, did you have your hand up earlier?
I did. I haven't lived there in 3 years, but having been to speak on what you were asking earlier, Mark, now that I'm removed from the season selection process in Las Cruces, I can say that for years, every season selection, the questions came up of, why aren't we doing more Hispanic theater? Why aren't we doing more representative theater of our demographics in the area? And the answer would always go back to, who do we have to direct it? And who do we have to direct it who feels like would put the right voice behind it, essentially. And that's a conversation that I have heard in every theater company I've worked with and all over this country. So whether it's Southwest, Midwest, Southeast, all over, I've been in season selections that have had that exact same conversation. The default, I think, if you've read White Fragility or if you've read Ibram X. Kendi's How to Be Anti-Racist, is this sense of this 90s era. Well, if we don't talk about it, then we don't get in trouble for it. Non-racist as racist kind of standard. And now that conversation is moving us forward to call that out and recognize, yeah, that's not good enough anymore. That's no. I think we're going to see, and we are seeing, a dramatic shift in season selection process to amend that issue and no longer ignore it. That said, it is a largely hetero white male dominated field, and look at a lot of our directors who are choosing plays, a lot of our artistic directors who are choosing plays are frequently straight white men. You don't want to be on the wrong side of the conversation. You don't want to be caught in the wrong. And so the old habit of let's not talk about it is the one that unfortunately is predominating and needs to change, is changing.